In the 2008 election, this poster, made by street artist Shepard Fairey, became the symbol of the Obama campaign. Artists like Shepard Fairey, Banksy, and Keith Haring have made street art part of every discussion of contemporary art, and have made as recognizable images in our culture as Andy Warhol and Picasso have. And this street art has made the transition into full-fledged high art. Today I will be introducing you to the artwork of American neo-expressionist artist Jean-Michel Basquiat, who was one of the first graffiti artists to break into the world of high art. I will take you from when he entered the scene with his Samo graffiti to some of his later works, and finally to the lasting influence he has had on the art world since his death. Jean-Michel first burst onto the scene in 1977 in a collaboration with his friend Al Diaz. Basquiat and his friend, who were homeless in New York at the time, created this text-based graffiti and signed it Samo, which was a persona they created, which was short for same old shit. In these works, Basquiat wrote short messages, usually about the art world. Some of the examples of this were Samo as an alternative to playing with the radical chic sect on Daddy's funds, Samo as an escape clause, and Samo as an end to playing art. At this time, Jean-Michel was making money by selling postcards he drew, but he remained homeless, sleeping on couches of friends and girlfriends. Jean-Michel eventually decided to kill off Samo and start making high art, so he tagged some Soho buildings in 1979 with the words "Samo is dead." Around that time, Basquiat was first introduced to Andy Warhol, with whom he would become friends until Andy Warhol's death in 1987. In June of 1980, Jean-Michel hit it big with his neo-expressionist paintings. He was featured in the Times Square show with Kenny Sharp and Keith Haring, who were some of the most important street artists at the time. And he was featured in Artforum magazine in an article titled "The Radiant Child" by René Ricard. This led to him becoming part of the Anna Nozay gallery, and he began frequently selling his works. Also in 1980, Jeffrey Deitch wrote in Art in America that Basquiat's work was a knockout combination of de Kooning and subway scribbles. Basquiat's work strived to destroy racist stereotypes and to celebrate black literacy and genius, as well as history. This piece right here talks about the Egyptian slave trade as well as the slave trade in America. His work featured references to many other artists, as well as to black leaders with whom he admired. Picasso, Da Vinci, Malcolm X, and Charlie Parker were all subjects referenced in his works. A lot of Basquiat's work incorporates symbols, the most famous and recognizable of these being this crown. The crown was Jean-Michel's symbol for himself, as well as a symbol for figures whom he respected and admired. He also continued to be a very language-oriented artist and would put words in his paintings. Sometimes he'd cross out the words, saying that crossing them out gives them more meaning. Shortly before Andy Warhol died, they collaborated on a show that was not very well received by the critics. They did the unthinkable, which was to destroy each other's paintings. So what they would do was they would have Andy Warhol would do like the GE symbol, and then Jean-Michel would come in and just paint over it, and then Andy Warhol would come in and paint over that, and they just kept going until they felt like it was a finished piece. Andy Warhol died on February 22nd, 1987. This drove Jean-Michel into a depression, and he overdosed on heroin on August 12, 1988 in his studio. The impression that Jean-Michel left on the art world is undeniable, and the hole he left with his passing can never be filled. His close friend and fellow street artist Keith Haring painted a tribute for him after he died. It is titled "Pile of Crowns for Jean-Michel Basquiat." A film about his life titled simply Basquiat was released in 1996 by Miramax. It starred Jeffrey Wright and David Bowie. Jeffrey Wright played Basquiat, and David Bowie was Andy Warhol. Basquiat paved the way for other street artists to transition into high art, as is referenced in this piece by Shepard Fairey, which is a portrait of Jean-Michel. And Madonna, whom he briefly dated, called him one of the few people whom I have ever truly been envious of. And he has been referenced in the music of many contemporary artists, including in a song on Jay-Z and Kanye West's 2011 album, Watch the Throne. Luckily for us, Jean-Michel left behind a large body of beautiful work for us to appreciate. From his origins with Samo to his neo-expressionist works and beyond, Jean-Michel has forever changed the face of the art world for the better, and has opened to our eyes to what high art really is.
So, Andre, what did you think?
I like the introduction with Banksy and Shepard Fairey, the Obama thing. And then I like how he used a lot of pictures and all of them were like spoken for and like they're described.
Nothing that you didn't like or thought could be better?
Like it kind of seemed like it was just like one speech, like it wasn't like broken up into like sections or transitions or whatever.
Okay. Well, we're basically getting a chronology of Basquiat and his career. I thought that you did the right thing when you focused on the art part of his career. Sometimes people, when they do biographical work, they get sidetracked and connected to a whole bunch of things that have very little impact on the work. I thought you focused mostly on the work, and that there were some particular points or stages in the life that stood out. It seems strange to me that you finished with the piece of work that he and Andy Warhol did together that was not widely embraced and in fact was criticized by critics instead of showing us something that would be more lasting or more important or more influential. So that seemed kind of an odd choice, but I guess that's the chronology that went on. I did think that some of the visuals rushed by a little bit quickly before we get much of a chance to understand what it is we're supposed to be seeing in them. I, for instance, don't quite understand how it is that you get from the language and just writing commentary in particular places and tagging it with same old shit gets you into being seen as having some artistic integrity or some visual avant-garde. I don't quite I don't see that leap that somebody made to see that particular staging. When he closes down that and he moves to something more visual, that's the part that to me seems like there's something that's going on here, and I'd like to know a little bit more about how that developed, how it was received, how it got spread, how it became recognized or popularized or accepted. How it is that Andy Warhol, for instance, reacted to it, because that appears to be the important part of the second act of his artistic life, and that felt like it was rushed by a little bit. This is, a very good thumbnail sketch of Basquiat's career, and I thought that you did a nice job on it. I think you emphasized some things a little bit less than they ought to have been, and some things a little bit more than they needed to be. That balance is hard to figure out, and you had a little bit more time, so like I did say, there were some things that were skipped over a bit. There was nothing that was problematic that jumped out at me and said, oh, well, this is a huge deficit in the speech. It's just that there are places where I think the speech would have been stronger if you'd been able to develop some of those concepts more. All right, thank you.